Hi, viewers. I hope that you all are well. And this is Maria. Basically, I'm the host of today's podcast, and our topic is like BlockTalk, exploring the world of cryptocurrencies. So we have Philip Cripe here. Welcome, Philip, to the podcast.
Thanks.
I would like to introduce you with Philip Cripe. He's the CEO of Puzzle Space, a gamified NFT auction platform evolving into a gaming platform. He's founder of Pride Hub, a company that helps projects find the right development team. He's a co-founder of Amlaw, which is a company evolving in tokenization, the real-world assets, and issuing tokenized securities in Canada. He's also the host of Hash Out Daily Crypto News with Cryptopolitan. So that's a brief about Philip Cripe, and I would like to start with an introduction that should be coming from Philip first. So Philip, please introduce yourself and your background in blockchain crypto space, please.
All right. So I originally started more from the development side. I was a web developer before getting involved in crypto, did QA, tech support. So not just answering the phone, but actually fixing things in servers and going to meet people with hardware issues on site. And then ended up doing operations management and project management and all of that. And ended up moving to Ukraine, which was a big crypto place at the time, and working in a company that was helping put developers in front of projects. And most of those projects were crypto. So I went from having a vague understanding of how blockchain worked to becoming an advisor on many different projects. And so that's how within 6 months, I went from maybe 5% of understanding to way more than that, being like really close to the subject matter by the end.
Right.
And now that's all I do, really.
Okay, good to have you in this podcast as well. So what basically inspires you to get involved in this blockchain and cryptocurrencies?
So the main thing for me was smart contracts, realizing all the different kinds of use cases, and we haven't actually tapped into it as much as we can yet. That's probably the main thing for me, because when people talk to me about Bitcoin, it was like, okay, that's cool, that could be a currency if people put enough trust into it, which is the case for any currency, right? So I saw it from an economics point of view, which is my study before IT, and then when I ran into smart contracts like on Ethereum and Binance Smart Chain and a few others, I was like, okay, there's a lot more we can do here. This is amazing. Like we can take anything that's contractual or anything that has to be transparent and saved a long time and put it on the blockchain as well, and not just do currency transfers.
Perfect. Good to know. Insightful. So, could you brief us about the overview of what is actually blockchain technology and why it's significant for all of us?
So blockchain technology in itself doesn't seem that significant, because it's just a network of computers basically communicating and verifying the last block in a chain of events. That doesn't sound like something revolutionary, right? Or anything. It doesn't sound that crazy. It's basically a proofing mechanism where you don't have to trust another person, because you have a bunch of machines doing the verification for you. So you can go through and look to see where the currency that somebody's sending you, or the NFT or whatever it is that's going through the blockchain, where it came from originally. You can track it all the way back to the beginning. So that's all it really is originally, right?
Good to know. So, what are the key advantages that, or some use cases of blockchain technology that you might highlight us in different industries?
So there are different ways of using blockchain. Like I said, smart contracts is the part that I find the most interesting. And one of the uses for smart contracts is tokenizing things. And you can have unique tokens that represent different things. One of the main ones I've seen is tokenizing real world assets. For example, if there's a type of tree that's about to go extinct and is protected somewhere in the forest of, say, Madagascar, they can tokenize the wood that's being produced legally and make sure that you can trace it back to where it was, and make sure that they're replanting it and things like that. So it has a lot of different real world uses. Another one that was really good was for the music industry, because they forget who they're supposed to pay royalties to for certain things. Like the drummer of this band is supposed to get 1%, and this guy's been forgotten for years, for example. And so like they don't forget him this way by using blockchain, because it's automatically going through a smart contract, and so the funds are sent to everybody they should be sent to. There's no it solves a few legal issues on that end. Helped advise a few projects on that side of things specifically. So that's one use case.
And in which industries you can say that, other than music industry or something like you have given an example, in which industries we can deploy the smart contracts?
So almost any industry, actually. And it's actually pretty crazy in that sense. So one of the ones that I like the most is gaming, for example. You can tokenize every single part in the game, including the game itself. There are platforms where you can buy and sell games as tokens. So one of the things I've thought about as a gamer in the past is, so I buy all these games on Steam, for example, which is like the biggest platform out there. And then how can I give these to like my kids, since it's not in DVD form or anything like that? How can I pass this on to someone else? If I have a friend that would like to play it and I don't want to, they have to buy it all over again. It doesn't sound like a very beneficial use of the internet. Whereas if it's an NFT, you can actually transfer it.
True.
So there's the game aspect. There you can transfer accounts in some instances. There was a whole economy for certain types of games where people would grind a game and then sell the accounts. That wasn't completely legal at the time, and that wasn't acceptable, but you could do it with NFTs, and at that point it's traceable. You can see who the account was transferred to and everything. So that's a completely different use case. And then items within games that could be used in different games. So like the whole gaming industry thing is like a whole thing in of itself.
Amazing. That's true, because the era of play to earn games. So people are not looking for PC games anymore. They are looking for play to earn games. So that's just because of blockchain integrations. So
there's a lot going on in that space.
So what are the common misconceptions or myths surrounding blockchain and cryptocurrencies that you encounter often?
So because like when I was talking about gaming, I encounter a lot of people in the gaming space and that tend to hate crypto. And some of the reasons they do is because they believe everything's a scam, a rug pull, or something like that. Or anything that's NFT is just like a picture that was stolen and thrown onto a smart contract, which are, those have happened, sadly. Those are things that have been done, but that's not the main. I would say the core use or the end goal. So you have most scams in crypto are phishing scams that they could do to people with a bank account. So it has nothing to do with crypto itself. It's people being naive and gullible and believing somebody on the internet or over the phone telling them, give me your account details. So that's the main form of scam.
They might say that I'll be transferring you some Bitcoins or some Ethereums for free. So you can get this on this platform. You just have to send us this fee for this. So
that kind of scam is the most common, right? Or there's a problem with your account. I'm here from tech support. Please give me access to your account. Like what? Like, you would never do that for your bank account, right? But those scams are still working for bank accounts.
How we can reduce these scams? Like how we can make people aware of like what actually is happening? Cryptocurrency.
I run several platforms. Right. And the main thing we have to put in documentation and as clearly as possible is we will never ask for your wallet access, for example. So that's the same as we'll never ask for your bank account information within these criteria for a bank, right? So those are the same things that need to be clear. And a lot of people haven't understood that enough yet. It's frustrating from like the organizing and like developing side of things to have to explain it to people. It's like if it's almost like the IT crowd. Have you tried turning it off and on again, but for cybersecurity?
That's true.
Yeah, just don't give out any personal information that gives access to your accounts. It's the main thing.
We should make people aware. of how it works, and which information to
Absolutely.
bring to the
And
organization.
for dual factor authentication, try not to use a cell phone number,
Yeah,
because some of the most common attacks that are hacks that are outside of like the human hacking factor of like uh, manipulating someone to give you their access is the SIM swap attack, where they go through the phone operating company and they change the SIM card from your phone to theirs for the same phone number, and then they can go through dual factor authentication, change your password, and have access to your account.
yeah,
It's one of the most difficult attacks to prove happened
yeah.
as well. So you might not be able to actually stop funds from being withdrawn and things like that.
This is a good point because majorly the hacks are coming from the mobile phones. So that's true. We should avoid these things. That's
Yeah,
really informative. So
yeah,
coming to the next question, I'm just curious to know about like what are the latest trends, the development in blockchain and cryptocurrencies, and what are the challenges? Like how do you see the most exciting one?
So there are a lot of trends depending on which part, because development doesn't stop. Like
Yeah,
the even the technologies that we used to use like 3 years ago are no longer like valid. We use something completely different now.
yeah,
So a lot of things, for example, on Ethereum and things like that. If you want to look at what's going on in the core, they're talking about ZK rollups and things like that. So it's zero knowledge, zero proofs, things like that. But if you're looking at things like NFTs, which is more something that I know more about, is like the tokenization aspect,
yeah,
is it's moving away from JPEGs and things like that towards actual real world assets. Like you can own a car or a house that's tokenized, and transfers there much quicker that way. And you can even use, there are some platforms that allow you to use that as proof of collateral for a loan, for example. So it has more than just a use, a direct use that you could think of. Like it shows that I own this. Well, it shows that you own this, and you can do other things proving that you own it through that system. So there are a lot of new developments in that side of things that have been kind of quietly worked on for the last 5 years, and now are just starting to come to the forefront.
right, right. So the trends are continuously evolving and changing. So yeah, there is no limit for the technology transformation. That's true. So
It just never stops.
yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you see the regulatory landscape of like cryptocurrencies that are involved, and what are the challenges as it present for the industry?
So I actually had a challenge due to regulations today, trying to transfer part of one of my payments from a cryptocurrency exchange, like a centralized exchange, into fiat currency. The exchange where I was able to do it last month, I can't this month because they changed their banking partner, and their rules for allowing you to use their system have completely changed because of regulations from the country where they're from. So I had to send it to a different exchange from in a different country in order to withdraw funds, which ended up costing more. But it's it can become really frustrating. There are two things. There's a lack of clear regulation in some countries, like the United States, for example, which means if you do anything, you might end up in court in a few years when the rules become clear, because they aren't clear enough right now. So that's a problem, because then either you go the route of being overly protective and making sure you'll never cross the line and you don't know where the line is, so you go too far, or you're not protective enough, and then you can end up having issues where you're outside the law, and that's another problem. And then you have countries that go way too far and they overregulate, or they just ban different technologies completely. For example, China, where they completely banned cryptocurrency.
Yeah, even in Pakistan, it's banned. It's not legalized
Oh
yet.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So this is a
I'm
great.
in Montenegro. They recently said if there's no law legalizing it, it's not legal. And the answer from the crypto community here was, then it's illegal to breathe because there's no law that legalizes breathing.
There is a challenge for us, yeah. Being Pakistani, is we cannot do the crypto trading or some stuff like that because it's
Can you use blockchain for like DAOs and things like that, like in China, or?
Yeah, basically, we are just working on the projects, I must say. When we cannot do it like in a legal term of the trades, but yes, we are just making some projects on behalf of blockchain. So
Okay.
some all like development stuff, nothing else.
Okay, so you can do like outsourcing development for other countries and things like
Yeah,
that.
exactly, exactly.
Okay.
We do have
And
it.
you can use blockchain technology as long as it's not linked to cryptocurrency use, right?
Yes, it's not legalized. Basically, it's all about like the regulatory authorities not providing us the
Yeah.
legal terms for this. So yeah,
It's
that
funny. I actually wrote some articles for Cryptopolitan about mostly BRICS members at the moment because I started with those, but going over the history of a country and how centralized they've been in regulations for other parts of the economy from like the beginning of their country till now, and
yeah.
how that's going to affect how they regulate cryptocurrency. And because of like the amount of centralization in the history in China, I'm not surprised at all that they banned crypto, and then they came out with their own cryptocurrency that they control.
Exactly,
And
exactly.
so if you get the right amount of points and things, they'll let you keep using it. And if for some reason the government doesn't like you anymore, they can just take money out of your account. So
Somehow they're doing the same thing with their own currency.
yeah,
Yeah,
so they created a cryptocurrency basically.
yeah,
So they just wanted the monopoly and all the control. That's
yeah.
about centralization.
Exactly. They just
Yeah.
want to have the all controls in the economy.
Which is one of the scariest things is almost every country on earth is studying CBDCs,
Yeah.
so central bank digital currencies, which
Yes.
is basically a cryptocurrency run by the central bank,
Yeah.
which gives them more control than if you were using fiat currency, for example.
Right.
So it's that's one of the big changes that could be. I think most people, whether they're involved in blockchain or understand it or not, will have an effect on their lives.
Definitely. So, don't you think that it's a challenge for central banks, like or financial authorities, like decentralized finances nowadays, very hot topic. So, I would like to know that. Can you explain what is it and how potential impact on traditional finance it will give?
So the central bank digital currency itself, or
The decentralized finance as it's a challenge
oh,
for.
decentralized finance, yeah. So decentralized finance poses a regulatory problem from the get-go because there's no one there to verify
Yeah.
who is doing what. So the know your customer KYC and anti-money laundering compliance just goes out the window. Like, how are you going to do that if there's no one there to verify?
Yeah.
Can you do it with a machine? Probably not. And if you could do it with a machine, would it make mistakes? Probably yes. So it doesn't matter how sophisticated artificial intelligence becomes, it can still make mistakes. So can human beings. So there's this whole problem of in certain countries where they absolutely want things to be very strict. I don't see DeFi being able to withstand the regulatory like wave that's started already. In countries where they're trying to follow rules,
Yeah.
then it's going to be complicated, but I think they'll find ways to make it fit. One of the projects I'm working on is part of that in the sense that we're trying to make sure we do everything compliant first. That'd be Amlock, by the way. Trying to be compliant first, no matter what, and also getting involved in being able to invest in business ventures, like a restaurant being built in another part of the city. They want help with their finances. You can buy in a share of the venture. So that's a security, right? So we have to be compliant on that end. So we have to become an exempt market dealer in order to issue securities and all that sort of thing. So all of these regulatory things that we'd have to go through in order to even start getting involved in decentralized finance in that way. So that's a huge subject in and of itself,
Definitely.
just the regulations.
Yeah.
And then as well, I think DeFi has a really positive aspect for users
Yeah.
that take the time to understand how things work.
Yeah, it takes a lot of time.
There's a learning curve,
Many
right?
people are not aware of this, that how it works and how actually we can make changes inside the industries, how we can make it more secure from the data breaches. So
A lot of people don't understand how the stock market works, for example, and you wouldn't want to become your own broker all of a sudden if you have no idea how it works. And
yeah,
that's kind of what decentralized finance is. you're given all of this control and power over your own finances, but not necessarily the training or any of the other tools
Yes.
to use with it. And so there's this kind of with great power comes great responsibility, but the only thing you can break is your own finances.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly. But to implement something without education is something like a waste of time and money both. So there should be proper education awareness
absolutely.
for these decentralized finances and how it works inside the industries, and then definitely we would be able to implement inside the whole world.
And
So
the education aspect in blockchain and crypto is something that's expanding rapidly as well,
yeah,
actually faster than the developer base.
yeah, that's good. So I would like to get some tips from your side that how we can invest inside the cryptocurrencies, and what are some fundamentals that you consider as strategies that should be considered inside investing in cryptocurrencies.
So if you're in a country where it's not legal, don't take any of this.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, you are right. At the moment that we do have some global perspective, like we do have some
yeah,
clients over all the globe. So that would be a message for them that how they can invest inside the
yeah,
cryptocurrency.
it's
Yeah,
complicated because like
I,
I'm
I,
French and American already, so I already have like an international perspective, whether I like it or not. So I have to look at things very differently. Like for example, as a Frenchman, theoretically I can use Binance, but as an American, I'm not allowed to, like Binance.com. Even, but I run a show on Binance.com, so it's like,
right,
so it's something I'm kind of like, okay, so what am I allowed to do? What am I not allowed to do? Is one of the first questions I ask myself for any of these things. Another one is before you invest in anything, always assess your risk.
yeah,
Always check to see like what are you willing to lose, and whatever you invest, you have to be willing to lose it all. It's the same for the stock market. If you invest in a company and they go bankrupt, you have no promise that you're getting anything out of it. Even if
right,
you own a share of a company and they go bankrupt, there's no certainty that you'll be given any of the bankruptcy proceedings or anything like that.
right,
And it's the same in crypto. If you stake on a platform in DeFi and that platform goes bust, or there's a hack or whatever, that you have no protection.
yeah.
So you have to be. It's sad, but you have to be willing to lose it all to even get involved. So don't sell your house
Okay,
and like don't take super.
that we can consider to invest inside this. Please elaborate on some risks that are associated with trading and
Yeah.
how listeners can mitigate them.
So well, like I was saying, like your main risk is putting things in you shouldn't. I saw a guy actually take out a loan to invest. Never do that. Like that's a bad idea. And
Right,
there are a lot of options out there to do that are basically traps where they get you in debt for a long time. So
yeah,
those are like the worst risks. But you also have the risk of making poor decisions when you actually do invest. Some of the things that are pretty clear to me looking into this space is if you're looking at currencies themselves, look to see who built it and why. What is the use case for this currency? Why does it exist? For example, Bitcoin is uh, kind of an insult to fiat currency in a way, saying that instead of being inflationary, you should be deflationary. Like the value should always go up. There's a limited amount. You can't print more and that sort of thing. So Bitcoin itself theoretically should be something that goes up in value regularly
yeah,
with the rarity and scarcity and the amount of people trying to get into it, especially with Bitcoin ETFs and everything that we're seeing now for institutional investors.
yeah,
If you're looking at other currencies, like I said, you have to look at why it exists and what it's used for. And do you believe in that use case? Would you use it? Like these are questions you should ask before you invest in anything. Like, is this actually useful? And for example,
you're right.
what's the point of a meme coin, right? Like, why would I invest in Pepe or Floki or one of these? Like, are they doing something useful that I support that I like? Because investing is also kind of a vote. You're kind of supporting a project one way or another. Because if the price goes up for something, people will look more into it, and more other people might invest into it. So every investor is actually voting for different projects and supporting those projects just by
Yeah,
investing even in a currency. Another way you can invest is in a project itself. I'm actually raising money for 2 projects right now. So like the infrastructure itself, and this is something really interesting. I heard with Robert Kiyosaki, the guy who wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So he's been giving advice on how to build wealth for decades now. He wrote that book before I was born, I think. And he said he doesn't own what's it called? He doesn't buy or sell shares of oil or anything like that. He owns actual oil wells.
Yeah.
So the infrastructure is what he's interested in. He gets involved in real estate, not in stocks. So like there are a lot of things that are outside of currencies that you can actually look into and invest in, and not necessarily a lot. Like you can start investing in an actual company maybe for less than $10,000 in certain cases, and then those can take off. But that also gives you more of an inside look into things than if you were just looking at cryptocurrency. So I find a lot of different ways of looking at it are useful, but the main thing is knowledge. If you don't know what you're talking about, it's not a good idea to invest.
If you're not aware of anything, you shouldn't invest. That's true.
Yeah.
And the investment should be the separate chunk. This shouldn't be like from your basic expenses. You shouldn't spend on.
Yeah, of course. Like never invest your rent. Like today I looked at, like I got paid in crypto actually for something, and I was like, well, I could put it in Bitcoin and see if it goes up before it's time to. I'm like, nope, not doing that. Like even knowing that sort of thing's a bad idea, the temptation can still be there. So like I actually thought about it for a second today, and I was like, what am I thinking about? Like I know better than this.
Both factors are really bad. One is fear, another one is greed. So we should be aware. Traders should be aware of it. So.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I've seen people running projects that took the project money from the investors and invested it, and then lost the funds because what they invested it into crashed.
Okay.
And then their project died.
So we should know that where is the entry point and where is the exit point actually in future trades. So it's really important to know. Most of the people are like doing what they are doing when cryptocurrency it's most high. They used to invest at that point, and suddenly that becomes the victim of dip. So
when it's high, it's usually theoretically you sell when it's high and you buy when it's low, but a lot of people do the opposite. Like it's going up, I should buy in, and it's like if you wait, it could go down.
Yeah.
If you wait, it could go up.
Yeah, that's
like it's
we should cope up with our greed first, and we can predict sensibly, not like that much. Because
look over the long term. Always take a step back.
Yeah.
So
there should be some targets inside.
Exactly.
That's really
you should have a goal. When I did some stock market trading, I looked at it from this point of view. I'm like, okay, I can't do day trades because I don't want to pay extra. So I can't just play on like weekly or monthly changes. But there are certain stocks that will have dividends at these times. What I could do is I could go for some of these lower costing stocks with high dividend amounts and kind of bet on these companies, saying I believe these companies are going to do well, and get the dividends from those. And at the same time, use some money on stocks of companies that do well when things aren't going so well. What's funny is Coca-Cola is one of those for some reason. So when everything else is down, Coca-Cola seems to be up. It's a weird trend in the stock market. Like I realized this when I started looking into it, and I didn't invest anything for the first 5 months. I was just observing, and this wasn't even with a lot of money. I think I invested like $100.
Right. It's just because of the consumption ratio of Coca-Cola in the whole world, I must say. So that keeps it high all the time.
Yeah, exactly. So even also something that's interesting is when you're in an economic crisis, the first things that people buy outside of what they absolutely need is like chocolate, cigarettes, alcohol, like all these like almost luxurious goods, but that are for like helping with depression, kind of
Yeah.
coping mechanisms for depression.
Yeah.
So like tobacco products sell more during a depression than they do in normal times.
So
It's just very strange to think
high
about.
products, I must say, all
Yeah.
the time. So, how do you see the future of cryptocurrencies, like adoption and its impacts on the traditional finance systems? What are your thoughts
So
on?
I think most people will be using cryptocurrencies by the end of this decade, uh, whether they like it or not, just because the central banks will kind of force them to, otherwise. And then there's this super old question of, should governments be the only ones issuing currency? Should banks issue currency? Should private individuals be able to issue currency? And we've had kind of a renewed questioning of this in the last, I don't know, 40 years, where there started to be local currencies within countries for like community uh, projects where you could like, the local butcher would accept this like local currency from your city that was created with all these associations and things like that on top of, at least they did this in France a lot, on top of like the national currency. So you had this kind of like parallel market, and the value of that currency was pegged to the original currency as well. So it was almost like almost a fiat stablecoin in a way,
Right.
which is entertaining to see that happened. And so you have this idea there, like the associative kind of like NGO use of currencies. And then now we have random people who nobody knows who Nakamoto is, for example, for Bitcoin. If it's an organization, a single individual, that's still up in the air. I mean, there's court cases and things like that going on, but it's still unclear. But for example, anybody could create a currency with crypto. Why should you trust theirs over somebody else's? Like, and so this big kind of philosophical debate about who should be allowed to issue currencies and who should you trust with currencies,
Yeah.
that we really haven't had since like the Middle Ages,
Yeah.
is back, and I find that fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really like people are spreading this and they're embracing this technology as well. But that might be a challenge for the future, as I said.
Yeah. And so we'll see a lot of like crackdowns in some places and liberalization in others, and it's
Yeah.
going to be fun. Like,
It's
it
going
might be a little dirty too when how it happens. It might not always be pretty, but from the economic point of view, I find it fascinating. Like, we'll have faster transactions and a lot more choices for the short term, and then the long term, things will probably stabilize.
Yeah, that depends on the goals that you create. So, in your history, like, how do you see the most innovative and unexpected use cases of blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies itself, and that you have come across, like, till now?
I think I'm still blown away more by the tokenization of real world assets.
Right.
And apparently I'm not the only one, because for example, Floki decided to get involved in like the meme coin decided to get involved in tokenization of real world assets, and the value of their token went up 100% like last week. They
Right.
doubled the value of their currency by getting involved in this. So it's something that people are interested in, and that's moving more and more. So what I mean by tokenization of real world assets, it can be a specific item, or it can be real estate, for example. And what I'm more interested in right now is mostly real estate and actual vehicles or things that you could transfer quickly that way. So that's one of the things I look at the most.
Right. Right. So, if you were to share any success story behind in the real world applications of blockchain or in different industries?
So one thing I was able to do with crypto that I would never have been able to do otherwise, when I left Ukraine a month before the invasion by Russia, and there were people I knew in different places that were helping other people out in the like bomb shelters, like distributing food and things like that. They ran out of their own money at one point, and they said, "Is there any way you could help?" Because I'd started an NGO in Ukraine before everything happened, which now I can't do anything with because it was supposed to develop the countryside. But the blockchain use was I was able to transfer them money instantly, that would have taken almost 5 days. So they could go out and get food immediately and be able to distribute it to people that needed it right then and there. So that use case is worth already enough for all of this technology to exist. just that use case is a good enough reason to have it around. I think that was the most useful real world use I've seen at the moment.
Perfect. That's good to know. So I guess I have done with all the questions that were in my mind, and thank you so much for briefing us and giving us a true insights about blockchain and cryptocurrency and how it works and how it's implemented inside our industries. It was really insightful session for our viewers. So thank you so much, Phillips. And now we're going to conclude this and wrapping it up.
Okay.
So see you again in the next podcast, maybe with
Sure.
a different questions, with the different challenges, and looking forward to get in touch with you again. Thank you so much for
Thank
your
you.
time.
Thanks.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.